Hello, and welcome to the Bad Fan Podcast. I am your host, Cole Carter, and we are so glad you have tuned in with us today. If you are listening along on Spotify, then a big welcome to you. And if you are following us on YouTube, then I hope you leave a like if you find today's episode to be smashing. If you are new to the podcast, then we would encourage you to subscribe as well today. And as always, I can't do this thing alone, so I am joined by my good friend, Brandon Patesnick, and together we will take a journey through the world of sports, giving you an informative rundown on the headlines that you need to know and discussing our views that may go against the grain of normal fans. Brandon, it's good to see you. How was the weekend, bro?
It was good. Spring feels like it's finally here. I think in Atlanta it's been there for a hot minute, but Columbus is getting that 40 to 50 to 60. I think it hit 70 today, so it's feeling good. I went on a run today, my first spring run, so I'm feeling great, and I'm excited to get into the rest of the spring sports.
Yeah, well, in Atlanta, you have winter, and you have fake spring, and you have winter, and you have fake spring again. I think hopefully we're in the real spring now. It's so hard to tell.
Yeah.
But you're well aware that it likes to trick you. It likes to keep you on your toes, and you really never know what you're going to get out of Georgia weather. But, that's why we love it. We stick through it, highs and lows, hot and cold. It's just how it is. But I'm sure the pollen is coming, and for those people that hate pollen, they can probably expect to get that allergy medicine ready soon. Mm-hmm. But we are going to jump in, and we're going to begin our bad fan journey today with more MLB free agency transactions, with some of the biggest names left on the market going to their not-so-forever homes. 4, 5, 6-year deals coming from a lot of people this offseason. And we'll begin with Carlos Correa, who puts pen to paper on a 3-year, $105.3 million deal with the Minnesota Twins, which, after a very successful tenure in Houston individually, some people forget they did cheat, banging on some trash cans, but this deal sees him become the highest paid infielder in baseball. The Twins had a great 2020 season, making it to the playoffs. 2021, they saw some fall off, so hopefully bringing in Correa will help see them improve this season, maybe return to the playoffs once again. Trevor Story, the other big-name shortstop that was on the market from the Colorado Rockies, has signed a 6-year, $140 million contract with the Boston Red Sox, making his way up north, who, in a loaded AL East division, will hopefully use his bat to swing them into contention in 2022. Brandon, of those two shortstops, I'm putting you on the spot. Which one would you see changing the trajectory of those teams more?
So the Red Sox had a really good end to their season last year. Trevor Story might push them further than they got. I'm expecting Trevor Story to maybe have a bigger impact on the team that he's on. Also, Carlos Correa's he has options at the end of each year to whether he wants to go back there. He can go back and hit the free agency market. So Carlos Correa could have a really good year. Let's say they don't make the playoffs and go get paid by another team in the next market. So crazy stuff there, but I think Trevor Story might not have a better year, but might help the Red Sox go a little bit further. Right. So yeah, another big move here. Outfielder Nick Castellanos signed a 5-year deal, $100 million contract with the Philadelphia Phillies. So that pairs a dangerous hitting trio in the outfield of Kyle Schwarber, Castellanos, and the MVP winner Bryce Harper, who I think everybody knows. They're keeping up with the Joneses. They're good. They've been wanting to compete in the past years, but haven't been able to do it. Now with the likes of the New York Mets spending big money, the defending World Series champions in the Atlanta Braves, our team, also getting stronger. It's going to be another tough year in the NL East.
Yeah, well, people might forget that the Phillies, I think, are the team that had the longest playoff drought in the NL East. I mean, you have the Braves who won the World Series in 2021, the Nationals who won in, I think, 2019, and then the Mets went to the World Series in 2015. So the Phillies haven't been to the playoffs since, 2010. So they really have been spending a lot of money, on, MVP Bryce Harper, but he hasn't changed the team that much. So maybe Castellanos can come in and give them a spark in a really tough division that people saw being tougher in 2021, but maybe 22 is finally when they'll really go head to head more this year. But the Braves did get stronger. What did they do?
They signed a couple of pitchers, namely Kenley Jansen. We'll give the Dodgers Freddie, and we'll take their closing pitcher. We signed him to a 1-year deal, $16 million contract. He's a great addition to what in Atlanta they call the night shift, which is their bullpen. What a great name that is.
Or the arm barn.
The arm barn.
The bullpen should be apparently called now.
Yeah, joking around about that. But yeah, the Braves only get stronger. I keep saying the Braves only get stronger with him. They also added Colin McHugh and Kirby Yates to that group. So I think it's going to be another good year in the NL East for the Braves, hopefully, but it'll be a tough year. Now, for me to put it back to you, who do you think out of these moves will work out the best or have the biggest impact this season?
I think the biggest fit is Kenley Jansen. I think him coming to Atlanta helps just to solidify that bullpen even more. Braves fans will know well about the Will Smith experience in the regular season. His ability or inability to close out games was always a topic of conversation. But ultimately, it didn't matter what happened in the regular season because in the playoffs, he was unstoppable. I don't even think posting any earned runs in the playoffs. So I think Kenley Jansen is the best fit. I think the most dangerous one is going to be Castellanos in Philadelphia. Like you said, that trio, Schwarber, Castellanos, Bryce Harper, and don't forget Rhys Hoskins, who's also a big bat in that lineup. I mean, those are 4 great hitters that when they're consistent and playing well, in a 162-game season, a lot of teams won't want to have to face them in the order. So I think Castellanos ultimately will probably have the biggest impact if he can stay healthy and he can be who he was in Cincinnati and in Detroit prior to that. So that's what I would say. But outside of the MLB, we're also in the offseason of the NFL where some more moves were made there. Some that shake up the landscape of the league and also some that certainly turn some heads. But yet to be determined if that head turning is for reasons on the field or off the field. But the first one is down in New Orleans. Jameis Winston got a little action. Returns to be back with the Saints. If you are on Spotify, I just made the thing where he puts like the W like he's licking his fingers after eating some crabs. Anyways, back to it. Jameis Winston signed a deal to be back with the New Orleans Saints, signing a 2-year, $28 million contract with $21 million of that being guaranteed. So this comes after a deal that last year had been anticipated that he would be the new starter in New Orleans after Drew Brees retired, but that was derailed after Jameis tore his ACL. So if he can find his best form, we know that Jameis, I think 1 year had more touchdowns than anyone else in the NFL, but he also had more interceptions than anyone else in the NFL. So he can be a highly productive quarterback. But we know he is a liability at his worst when he can turn the ball over more than anyone. So keeping an eye on New Orleans, a lot of people were thinking they were in the sweepstakes for this next guy that you'll talk about, but ultimately they went back to Jameis. So tell us about what happened up in Cleveland.
Yeah, a lot of teams seem to be in for this guy, and it's Deshaun Watson. If you've been following any of the NFL news, he's probably taken all the headlines. Deshaun Watson is traded to the Cleveland Browns. The deal is worth $230 million over 5 seasons, and it's all guaranteed. So it's pretty straightforward. Signing bonus was $44.965 million spread out over the length of 5 years. And that averages out to $8.993 million each season on top of his deal. So
that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. Let's just say that for a player who he didn't play last year, did he?
No, not at all.
Because I think he was dealing with all these off the field issues, and which I'll bring up in just a second. But to finish out the deal, the Texans received 3 first-round picks, which includes the number 13 overall selection in the 2022 NFL Draft, as well as pick number 107, which ends up being in the 4th round, a 2023 3rd-round pick, and a 2024 4th-round selection. That's a lot, I will say, especially for a guy you don't know if he's going to even play. So I'm really confused. And basically that is because he's still facing 22 civil counts of sexual misconduct and sexual assault. According to Hardin, the Harris County District Attorney, he will likely decide by April 1st whether Watson will be charged criminally. So I don't know if the NFL knows something we don't, if they have their best lawyers on the case. I mean, it's just hard to talk about, and I feel like I mentioned this before in a different podcast, but these guys, I'm sure they feel like they just can't be brought down, just because they can sling the rock, throw the ball, throw the pigskin, they can shoot the hoop, they can whatever it is. I mean, they just get away with it because they're good at a sport. And I feel like a lot of people, typically women, aren't protected when it comes to this stuff. Now, I think everybody has the right to, an equal and just courting process. But, as they say, where there's smoke, there's typically fire somewhere. And when you have 22 accounts, that's just a lot of question marks there.
Yeah, for me, it's pretty hard to ignore that number. 22 women is not just something that comes out of the blue. But as you just said, it's up to the legal process ultimately for what happens on the football field. Mm-hmm. Maybe personally it'll leave a stain, but for the Cleveland Browns, they've decided, regardless of the outcome, that they're committing to this guy, even if something civil happens, that they want him to be their quarterback, and that's just sort of how it's going to be. I mean, unfortunately for what may have happened to women, their opinion here is not going to change the Browns' opinion on Deshaun Watson.
And I just think the NFL just has terrible rules around this stuff. It's outdated. It doesn't make any sense how someone who doesn't pass a drug test seems like much more punishment than someone who hits a girl at a bar. None of it makes sense to me. And I don't know enough about all the rules, but just all the stuff that we've seen over the years, it just puts a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. Yeah. But maybe that's for another day or another discussion. But the quarterback that's there, first round pick, number 1 overall pick, I'm pretty sure, Baker Mayfield, you might have heard that name. Where does he go? I wonder, so they still have Baker there. So is he the backup now? Maybe we'll start the season. Do you know where he might go? I have no idea.
Well, if I'm Baker Mayfield, I don't see him as a guy just going to concede his position. He definitely sees himself as the number 1 guy. Baker isn't going to just sit around and do nothing. Ultimately, he'd probably prefer, if the team decides to move on from him, that he doesn't want to be a backup to a guy. He wants to go and have his own team to lead. So, you did just have Seattle move on from Russell Wilson. Do they want, a guy that's been inconsistent and been injured this past season, or do they want a fresh start with a younger quarterback? Do the Lions move on from Jared Goff so early? There's a couple of different teams that could use a quarterback, but I haven't heard any clear indications of where he may go. But it sounds like his tenure in Cleveland may be coming to an end. And if anything, he is that safety net for the Browns. If Deshaun legally has issues that he may be suspended for half or the full season, we may not even see him in 2022 if he comes out of this process, innocent. But the NFL may find a way to suspend him. So, maybe Baker does need to be around, and maybe we have a quarterback battle in the near future. But ultimately, though, I have no idea where Baker's going to end up. But the matter that I'm thinking about is who won this trade. You have the Texans, who got a lot of draft picks, a lot of prospects that they can bring into the team now, or the Cleveland Browns, the ones that got Deshaun Watson at a high price. Or for me, I'm the one that's thinking about the Atlanta Falcons, who were this close to being on Deshaun Watson and didn't land him. So did they maybe dodge a bullet if everything goes south for Deshaun? What are you thinking from the teams that were involved in this trade?
The Texans definitely won the trade. I think it's safe to say. They have a pretty decent quarterback, I'd say, there, and Davis Mills, who's from where we grew up.
The local guy, yeah.
Gwinnett County, big football county. He went to Stanford, by the way. I'd like to see them maybe give him a shot, and he could be one of those guys that sort of comes out of nowhere and could play well enough where they might not need to draft a quarterback maybe this year. But they do have the 13th overall pick, so there might be a quarterback in there they might try to go get, especially with all these new picks. They could trade up, they could do a bunch of things. So that's a different conversation for later. But I definitely think that the Texans won it. This Deshaun thing, I think, put a bitter taste in Matt Ryan's mouth, and sort of maybe not forced, but maybe forced this next topic you're about to say.
Yeah, it definitely, I think he may have been involved in the conversations. It's unclear of where he landed in the Falcons organization and their hierarchy of, the conversations being had between the GM and head coach Arthur Smith. But because in Atlanta the whole thing with Deshaun Watson happened, it maybe, showed their hand. And so the 14-year veteran and 2016 NFL MVP Matt Ryan has been traded from the Atlanta Falcons to the Indianapolis Colts for a third-round pick. Kind of crazy. I mean, a lot of people were thinking that had the Deshaun thing not happened in Atlanta could have maybe even gotten a first-round pick, maybe 2 draft picks, and so they only got a third-round pick. It's not nothing. That is something. But, Matty Ice had been the cornerstone of this franchise since the moment he was drafted in the first round in 2008, so 14 years ago, and had brought some of the best moments for the franchise since they came to Atlanta in 1966. So for what the Colts are getting, they're getting a proven winner. Now, in recent memory, people will say, a proven winner from Atlanta? No, there's no way. But Atlanta has been consistent under Matt Ryan. He's led by example, even these past couple of years when the team has been in some pretty low moments and some low lows. But now the Colts will have some consistency at the quarterback position that they haven't had since Andrew Luck had that abrupt retirement due to injury concerns and concussion concerns. He retired pretty young. So finally they may have some consistency. But now Matt will be coming into a team that's potentially primed to make a Super Bowl run. They had their breakout star, Jonathan Taylor, who had an amazing year last year. So if he can continue his ability to run the ball and to score touchdowns, and with the stout offensive line that can finally protect Matt Ryan, maybe he can get some more time to make some good passes down the field. We know his accuracy ability is still there. So maybe this is the guy that Indianapolis needed to get them, over the edge and into that playoff contention and maybe into the Super Bowl conversation. But the Falcons, they do have some consolation in this trade. Despite now having the largest dead cap salary hit in NFL history, basically if you're not in the know, meaning despite not being on the team anymore, Matt Ryan's money due to him will still go against the Falcons' spending ability this season. So that big number being $40 million, which is huge. $40 million. So that's pretty detrimental to Falcons this season. But if you look forward, you can see why the Falcons made this deal. Basically, it gets Matt Ryan off the books for next year, which for the 2023 season is huge. That's a huge relief. The Falcons now will, instead of having $9 million this year, next year they'll have well over $136 million of free space to rebuild this team that really needs it. Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith have been brought into this Atlanta team to transform it, to take it from a 2016 Super Bowl appearance team to back down to the bottom at the end of Dimitrov's reign. So Fontenot and Arthur Smith are looking to get some assets like this third-round pick to rebuild this team. But to put a Band-Aid on a gaping wound, the Falcons did sign Marcus Mariota for 2 years for about $18.75 million. So this is a reunion for Arthur Smith, the head coach of the Falcons, and Mariota from their time in Tennessee. But he doesn't fit the bill for the Falcons in the long term. You have to think Mariota has been inconsistent. He's had some injury issues. Obviously, coming out of college, he was highly rated and a Heisman guy. But I'm hoping, as a Falcons fan, I'm begging the Falcons to not take a quarterback this year. Do not do it. If you are a Falcons GM who's listening to this podcast, please. I think that this draft for the quarterbacks is really not that good. I'm thinking you next year at a guy like Bryce Young. If I'm the Falcons, there's some teams that are pretty bad that don't need quarterbacks. The Jaguars are going to be a terrible team, but they have Trevor Lawrence. So if you're bad enough, Bryce Young might slip down to Atlanta next year. So don't do it this year. Let's build that offensive line. Let's continue to work on that defense. There's some great guys that are available in the draft. I would much rather take them if I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan. Mariota will be a nice Band-Aid this year. He'll be able to compete with some other bad guys like Josh Rosen, Felipe Franks.
I don't even think Josh Rosen is still there. I think his contract was up. So who knows? He might be back.
He might be back. AJ McCarron might be back. I really don't know.
God.
So there's not a bright spot at the quarterback position for Atlanta, but they're competent enough to where they can maybe win 3 games, and Atlanta will have a good chance for a decent prospect next season. But we'll see how that all unfolds. We have lots of time between now and the draft. The Falcons will be picking, I believe it's the 8th pick, so kind of not where they want it to be. I'm sure a lot of fans probably wanted to be in the top 5, but they end up at 8th. But moving on from that, Brandon, like we talked about last time, it's March, baby. So tell me about some March Madness that's been going on.
Oh, man, you're going in on the Falcons there.
I was. I want to see that team succeed so bad.
God, it's not going to be good this year, unfortunately. But
hey, also, I was thinking about it. I'll be able to get a Matt Ryan jersey for Chief now. So that's exciting.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Man, what a guy. He'll be missed for sure in Atlanta. But yes, you said it's March. It's madness. It's March Madness. And the St. Peter's, the 15 seed Peacocks are still in it.
Man.
In this dancing in the Sweet 16. It's absolutely insane. And they're looking really good. So, I'm sure they busted a lot of brackets. I know they busted a lot of brackets. So good for them. And this is what it's all about, right? It's just about teams you never heard about going in there, mixing it up, trying their hardest and trying to win. I keep saying 6 straight. I don't know if it's 6 or 5 or whatever it is. Trying to win
chasing
to go
a
all the way.
championship. That's all that matters.
Yeah, and they're all, all the teams are good. So it's really awesome to see. And Michigan, for example, 11 seed. That's another surprise so far in the tournament. Not a great season, but they do make it into the tournament as an 11 seed.
Right. What do you think about Michigan though? I mean, they've been relevant for a lot of. I mean, you think just like recent memory, they won in 2013, I think. Obviously, had the Fab Five. Like Michigan historically is a good basketball program, so. Yeah. I mean, they shouldn't be overlooked as much as probably they were coming in, but they're a solid team.
Yeah, and with the Big Ten probably being the best conference in college basketball
as a whole.
Yeah, it's some teams can have tough seasons. I think that's why they usually Big Ten teams get the benefit of the doubt.
Right. Beat up on each other.
Yeah, and you see that here. They're looking really good under Juwan Howard. They're gritty. They got good pieces. Their big man, he's really tall and he can shoot from wherever.
Ready to fight whenever.
Oh
just like
yeah,
head coach.
We won't talk about that. But yeah, be watching out for them. I think they could make it to Elite Eight. They could even make the Final Four. They're pretty solid. So. But we do have 3 1 seeds in it still. I know I said last week Gonzaga is going to get bounced, and it could be by Memphis. It was not. It was a close game, though. And their 2 big guys came up really big again. Baylor, the 1 seed, they did get bounced. And who do we have? It's Kansas and Arizona, right?
Yep.
Just great overall teams, well coached.
Yeah, Bill Self has been in Kansas for, I gotta think, 2 decades now, maybe. I mean, he's been around a long time. Back when Mario Chalmers was there in 2006 or something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of good coaches still left in the tournament. I think 2 seed Villanova, that coach has been around for a while. He's won a national championship. They look pretty good against Ohio State too. So yeah, a lot of good teams still in it. Obviously, that's how the tournament goes. But I wouldn't be I wouldn't be afraid to say that there's probably going to be some more upsets in here. So
Let's hope so. At this point, we just want chaos.
yes, please bring it. Like the commercial
Buffalo Wild Wings.
That one, and is it State Farm? Who's the guy?
Oh, I can't remember.
His name is He calls himself Chaos.
Oh, Mayhem?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it whatever it is? Those commercials are pretty fun.
Yes.
But what most people actually care about when it comes to March Madness, the brackets, right? There are no more perfect brackets, and I don't think that's surprising to anybody. That's just classic. That's just how it goes. And in fact, do you know what are the odds to have a perfect bracket?
I know it's a really big number, and I know the odds are better to get hit by lightning to win the lottery. I think to get hit by lightning on the way to win the lottery is like better odds than like winning a perfect bracket.
Yeah, well, I looked it up. It's 1 in 9.2 quintillion.
That's not even a real number.
Yeah. So basically, this is sort of a fun question for us. And anybody, if you're listening, get in the chat, hit us up on Instagram, tell us what you think. Will there ever be a perfect bracket in the history of the world? Will there ever be a perfect bracket?
They said that there would never be a 16 seed to beat a 1 seed. So I'm an optimist. I do think that at some point, whether it be computer generated or human generated, I do think that there is someone that will get lucky enough by happen's chance to predict a perfect bracket. Odds are meant to exist because it does mean something can happen. So people are banking on this thing to happen. I know like a decade ago, I'm pretty sure Warren Buffett offered like $1 million or something like that if someone could do it.
$1 million or $1 billion or something.
If it's
I read that this week.
Whatever it is, I hope the offer's still on the table because I'm hoping it's me. I'm waiting to make some big bucks, so let it come my way. I want to beat the odds.
Go looking for a quick buck there.
Any way I can.
Yeah, never tell me the odds, like Han Solo says, but no one will ever. Those odds are unheard of right there. So that's basically saying 0% chance. So no, my answer to that, no way. But watch it happen. Watch it happen. That'd be a lot of fun, right?
I'm here for it.
I'll
be asking whoever won it for a little bit of cash. Just share the love.
Yeah, hopefully we know him. But we move on to the league we love most, and that's the Premier League. We didn't do any predictions or anything last week, so we're just going to really glance over a couple of the games this week because there weren't many. I think there were only
it was like 4 or 5 over the weekend.
3?
Maybe even that, yeah.
Well, they weren't a lot, but they did happen to involve our two teams. So Arsenal came to Villa and won 1-0. I watched this game. I don't know if you did, but it was pretty much a stalemate of a game. It probably should have ended in a 0-0 draw or maybe in a 1-1 draw. It just was one of those games. But when you're feeling good like Arsenal is and has been for most of the season, things tend to bounce your way. And in this case, Saka's goal, I think, was deflected a little bit. And Martinez for Villa, the goalkeeper, was shielded off and couldn't see the ball until it was basically past him. So 1-0. They keep trying to solidify their place in fourth. But another big game in that chase for fourth.
Yes, I really needed the villains to do better to help my team out. But that's okay. We still have some games left in hand to play. But Tottenham did play over the weekend. They actually had a really big game in that race for the top 4. Not only Tottenham, but West Ham are involved in that top 4 race. And Tottenham took care of business. They beat them 3-1 at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And this was a game that could have even been 5-1 in Tottenham's favor. The usual suspects showed up. Sonny, known as Sonaldo, he did have 2 goals. He almost had the hat trick, but he didn't get enough of a touch on that first goal. It ended up being ruled an own goal against Kurt Zuma, the cat abuser. Harry Kane did end up having 2 assists. So they combined once again to just be that unstoppable force that Tottenham needs them to be. As the race for the top 4 continues, they still have a huge game against Liverpool I think at Anfield that Tottenham is going to have to find a result from somehow. I think Arsenal still has 3 or 4 really big games, but ultimately the one that matters the most, still waiting for it to be scheduled, is that North London derby that really could actually come down to who might get that 4th spot. So my eyes are open. They're peeled to when that schedule is coming out. I still have my ticket to the game. Let me know as a listener, as a viewer, should I go and buy a ticket to see that North London derby? Is it worth it to buy a plane
You mean
ticket?
a plane ticket? Yeah,
A
okay.
plane ticket. I have a game ticket. Should I buy a plane ticket just for the game? You guys let me know. What should I do? You're in control of my wallet today. Hey, you know.
Yeah, leave it to them.
Could you imagine being there? Tottenham wins.
No.
We clinch Champions League. That would be amazing. That would probably be one of the best North London derbies ever. So
Yeah.
that'd be awesome. So we'll see.
We'll see.
But over the weekend, there weren't as many Premier League games, but the MLS was still in full force. We gave you our Fast Five. This is some review of it. I made a mistake, guys. Brandon pointed it out. In the it's actually here again, back on our script. We have Red Bulls versus at COL. If you were listening to this and you were looking at the script and it said COL, what would you think of? You'd probably do what I did, and I would say Colorado. That's supposed to be CLB, meaning Columbus, whatever.
And who wrote that? That was you, right?
It was probably my fault. Anyways, we won't talk about that anymore. We're not going to count that prediction we made. Anywho, it did end up as a 1-1 draw. But the ones we did talk about, Austin and Seattle played. Austin had a great game at home, but they couldn't get that second goal to snatch away the win against Seattle. Steve had Austin winning 4-2. That was a really bold prediction. Brandon, I think you said you wanted to have a draw, but you said Seattle winning 2-1, I think. I said a 0-0 draw, so I'll take some points there. NYCFC took on the Philadelphia Union. The Union got a 2-0 win. The baseball field team loses. Crazy, isn't it? It's fascinating how sometimes they do lose when they literally have the biggest advantage in soccer. But Bedoya scored, and who else scored for Union?
I believe it's pronounced Gazdag.
Gazdag.
I'm not too sure about that.
Cool name.
Yeah.
Steve had that one in Philadelphia's favor, so right on, Steve. Wish you were here tonight. Brandon, you had New York winning. I said a draw. Both of us were wrong, so we are not prophets. As you may think, we're probably experts, which we're flattered by you thinking we're experts, but we're not. RSL took on Nashville. They got the win at home, so 2-1. Steven's favorite FIFA player in 2017, Bobby Wood, the Flying Hawaiian, scored early for RSL. Walker Zimmerman got a goal, so he responded with that himself. But Schmidt of RSL scored in the 54th minute to get the winner. So kind of crazy. That's going to be probably a team to watch out for. RSL, are they going to be good enough to make the playoffs? Can they hold their own this season? Nashville's supposed to be up there in the West, so pretty good matchup early on this season. I'm sure they'll see each other again down the road, but the last one was crazy. I was watching it.
Steve predicted that, by the way. He predicted that dead on, 2-1.
2-1. You had Nashville. I had Nashville. We were.
So Steve knew. Steve might have a little mystical ball that he can look into the future.
Yeah, he's got that magic 8-ball working. But the last one was crazy. I mean, unreal finish. Atlanta and Montreal finished 3-3, and this was just a cracker of a game. It was
a cracker. I'd say a crap shoot.
A crap shoot.
God, what an awful game.
Joseph got going early. I think it was like the 5th minute. Joseph had a great goal. Skinned it off the top of the bar down into the net. So that was really nice, turning the ball over on Montreal side. Joseph turning around and putting in for Atlanta's goal. But man, Brandon, what happened on those next goals, dude?
I don't know. Like, you don't even see that in like Sunday league or,
our church league.
Wednesday night, 9 p.m. league. Like, you don't see this, but off of a corner, which was a terrible routine, and I hope we never do it ever again, but we probably will. Brooks Linden plays a terrible ball to the center of the field. We don't have anybody on the midway line. We don't have any defenders dropped. Everybody's in the box or on the edge of the box.
So vulnerable.
A terrible turnover leads to I just don't know the last time I ever saw that happen in like a competitive game. I mean, it was 2-on-1, and the one being Brad Guzan, the goalkeeper.
Who got put into a washing machine.
Yeah, there's not much he could do. He might as well just like lay down on the end line with his hands up or something. If you haven't seen it, just go back and watch the highlights. You'll sort of get a glimpse of what we're talking about. But yeah, terrible goal to give away. We just look so bad in defense.
Yeah, but Atlanta got the spark they needed. The red card from Dom Dwyer got the team going.
I wouldn't call that a spark.
It did something, because in like the 86th minute, Thiago Almada scored a world-class goal from the edge of the box, putting in the top right part of the net. And then the 92nd minute, Brooks Lennon doing just enough to put the keeper off of his feet. And the keeper probably just didn't see the ball until it was too late. And Atlanta got the equalizer late and sent the stadium into mayhem, which insane. Atlanta really needed that result despite the red card in like the 60th minute.
Also, I don't think that pin that was given to them was a penalty. And I don't know. I don't really trust VAR all that much to tell a referee to go look at it. But I watched it multiple times. I was like, there's not much to give a penalty there. But, oh, well, it ends as a draw. Terrible game. I won't ever look back at the highlights to say that was a classic or anything. And I predicted a draw. I said 2-2, but
I said Atlanta was going to score 3 goals. I just didn't know Montreal was going to score 3 goals. Steven also thought the same, but hey, we were close, but we didn't get the result quite correct. So at the end of the day, Steven got 2 of the 4 that we actually corrected, besides the New York game. You had 1 of 4, I had 1 of 4. So we're not very good, but we're going to keep doing it. Something fun to talk about. Another Atlanta guy that we wish was still on the team. We really need this guy for depth. But Brandon Vasquez, another brace up in Cincinnati, helping them get another win against the bottom dwellers of MLS, Inter Miami.
You love saying that.
It feels good.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just look like garbage. But Brandon Vasquez is staying hot. I think he's technically leading the MLS Golden Boot race. And Charlotte gets their first win over the New England Revolution, who have been looking a little cold recently. So we'll see if New England can get back on track or not. But as we always do, we'll jump back over the pond to a little bit of more soccer notes. And El Clasico happened. This was crazy, wasn't it? What happened in that one?
Yeah, El Clasico got Barcelona playing Real Madrid, and it was at Real Madrid actually. But that didn't really matter. Aubameyang, the striker from Arsenal, scored a brace, leading Barcelona to victory. They really just dominated in every facet of the game. Real Madrid looked very bad. I don't know if it was tactics or they just didn't show up that day or what it was. But, they're really hoping they can shake that off going into the Champions League quarterfinals versus Chelsea. I think they're playing Chelsea. So, that's in a couple weeks now. I'm sure they'll be pumped up for that game or the pair of games. But, yeah,
I guess the big thing will be if
look.
they have Benzema back or not. I don't know if he will be. Because that's
true. And
maybe he didn't make a difference if he was there over the weekend against Barcelona. But, Madrid, that was probably one of their worst Clasico showings, I'm sure, in their history. Certainly in recent memory, especially in a season where Barcelona has had 2 head coaches and now they're back on track. But a Barcelona team that didn't really find their edge until recently, especially with Aubameyang coming in. The man is in form, scoring in his past 5 games. So crazy result. The FA Cup did happen. City cleaned up against Southampton. Liverpool got over the line versus Nottingham Forest, so not shocking results, but gives us huge semifinals, which sees City versus Liverpool and Chelsea versus Crystal Palace. City and Liverpool now play twice in April, don't they?
Yeah, they do. 2 big games, one probably bigger than the other, that being the league game. But yeah, within 2 weeks, City's going to play Atletico Madrid for the Champions League game at home at City. They're going to play Liverpool at City, an away leg against Atletico, and then the semifinal FA Cup against Liverpool. Woof. That is a tough 2-week period right there. Man, This could really turn the title race, couldn't it?
It's going to be crazy. I mean, Liverpool, I think is it within 1 point right now?
It's
At
1 point,
the live
yeah.
table. So this is going to be huge. These are really the biggest games of the year. People are saying that because of these big games that Liverpool might have the edge in finishing out the Premier League title race. So that would be crazy to see. I mean, I'm just waiting for these guys to start complaining about the amount of fixtures they have. It came up this week again. I'm going to trash on them because I can, but Arteta was complaining about Arsenal having too many games. It's like, dude, you haven't been in any European competition. You're not in any of the domestic competitions. It's like, stop complaining.
Mm-hmm.
These guys like Chelsea, these guys like Liverpool and City, they're the ones playing like 3 times a week consistently. You have like 5 to 6 days in between every game. Your guys are fine. Your team is literally succeeding because you don't have games to play. That's why you're in 4th. I don't think you could have managed Europe and domestic. Anyways, City have an uphill battle against them, especially in the Champions League, and it's not going to get any easier playing. If they want to win like a treble, if they want to win a quad, actually it's Liverpool or City that can win the quad, whichever one's in 4 competitions still. Anyways, yeah, crazy. Can't wait to see those games. I won't be missing those for sure.
Yeah. The FA Cup, Pep takes it very seriously. I'm sure Liverpool will be as well. Because I don't think City hasn't won it in a minute because they usually win the Carabao, right? And I don't know when the last time Liverpool won the FA Cup. I think that's usually like Arsenal's tournament for some reason.
I totally forgot the Carabao Cup final already happened.
Yeah. So I don't know, but they're going to be going for that game too. So don't not watch that game. It'll be very competitive.
It'll be huge.
Both those teams will be fighting for that trophy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, here at home, we talked a little bit last episode talking about the U.S. men's national team. The final round of World Cup qualifying is here upon us. And if you guys have followed along the U.S. men's team for a couple of years now, they didn't make the World Cup in 2018. And this is a World Cup year. So all our prayers are being sent up right now for them to qualify. But this is the team that has to do it. We talked about it. We gave you the rundown. We gave you our opinions. But we talked about how we needed this to be the best men's team possible to ensure qualification. But we talked about how you especially thought this wasn't the best team. But we talked about how Sergiño Dest got hurt and who we think was going to replace him. Well, we got our answer, and Steve was correct on this one once again. He is a prophet. Dest is being replaced by left back George Bello, formerly from Atlanta United, now in Germany with Arminia Bielefeld. Not Joe Scally from Mönchengladbach, who I think you thought was a good replacement option.
Yeah, I think a lot of people really rate him, and I do too. He's getting a lot of playing time there. But like Steve said, Greg sort of took some favoritism to George in the previous cycles. So yeah, it is what it is. I sort of feel for Joe Scally there, but George Bello is not a terrible option there at left back.
Right, and he might be similar to like a DeAndre Yedlin, who was very young in 2014 in Brazil when he made his World Cup debut. George Bello may be similar to him, where he's getting that experience now, so he feels more comfortable if the U.S. qualifies in December when they go to Qatar. But a more recent update that we didn't get to fill you in then, but we do now, is Brendan Eriksson had to be withdrawn from RB Salzburg from their starting lineup just prior to the Wolfsburg match on March 20th. So that means now there's some drama surrounding him in regards to his national team selection, which gave me the rundown. What's up with it, Brendan Eriksson?
So the report came out saying it was a slight knee injury. They didn't really know the severity at that time. So, he was probably not going to be in the camp. Which sucks. Well, oddly enough, there were a lot of conflicting reports on this in the past couple of days, whether he was going to be in camp, whether he wasn't. So according to a report by Meg Swanick, I might have said that correctly, the injury would be enough for Eriksson to not take part in camp. However, Stu Holden, popular announcer here in the U.S., tweeted that Eriksson will be in camp this week. Taylor Twellman turned around and came out a day later and said Aronson will not be in camp and will be out for 2 to 4 weeks with an MCL injury. Only for Doug McIntyre, another prominent journalist, to say about an hour later that Aronson is day-to-day and will actually report to camp. Well, I have the answer for everybody. The U.S. men's national team came out and confirmed that he will not be reporting to camp due to an injury. So maybe that first report was correct by Meg Swanek. So good for her getting that report correct. And Stu Holden, hopefully he's getting some crap on Twitter. Probably not. But, that's an injury that just happened. And Cole, as that's finally confirmed, who would you call in to replace him? There hasn't been any posts, as far as I'm concerned, or as to my knowledge, that they have replaced him on the roster yet. So who would you call in? I think you're muted.
I don't know what happened there. Anyways, I wish it was Weston McKennie. I wish he wasn't injured so we didn't even have to have this debate.
Sure.
But it's tough. It's tough to think about. I mean, you have some good depth on the team. You're going to miss having him on the team in the forward position. I mean, you have Tim Way already there. Gio Reyna's back. Pulisic's there. So at the end of the day, we probably weren't going to see a lot of involvement from Brendan Aronson. So really, I have no idea what Greg's thinking. He could bring in a kid who's never played before. So it's hard to pick his mind. It's hard for me to predict. What would be your preference if you could have had a say?
Yeah, I think really the only option it can be is Josh Sargent. And I'm gonna talk about him a little later. But it just has to be him. He should be on the team already. But, sometimes this gives Josh a chance to come back on, prove himself a little bit if he gets some playing time. And he might be pushing for a World Cup roster spot. So, it's obviously Josh. If it's someone else, who else could it be? I mean, I don't even know. Conrad De La Fuente, he's not even playing at Marseille. But he's a young gun that, hopefully, I feel like he's going to be one to watch for the future.
I mean, heck, you could bring up Josie just to have a little bit of leadership, a little bit of that veteran presence. A lot of these guys weren't around in 2018, which maybe is the reason why Josie isn't at this camp. But he'd be a guy that just to be hey, I've been here. I understand what it's like to not make it. I also know what it's like to make the World Cup. So I actually think Josie could be a good alternative just for someone to bring in some of that wisdom, to bring in some of that experience to camp.
I think that's a good shout. I wouldn't hate that. Greg has his favorites in Zardes. He also likes legit, so he could bring in legit, not even bring in another winger or striker. He just bring in a different
midfield.
Yeah, just bring in another midfielder. Dude, who knows? Who knows at this point?
Well, we did see him include Dallas duo Jesus Ferreira and Paul Arriola, who Ferreira just had a hat trick. So far they've combined 4 goals and 3 assists in the first 4 MLS games. We're hoping they can bring that competitiveness to camp. But what do you have to say kind of about more of the announcements and what we might expect from this next round of qualifying?
And sometimes when I speak about the U.S. men's national team, I feel like I come off as a very bad fan. And
as you should.
I love the team. I think that's why I get so passionate about it. Everybody can have their opinions too, which is great. But Jesus Ferreira should not be on the team. I mean, I don't hate that he's there, but he shouldn't be. Paul Arriola, maybe for that veteran presence, I can see that. He's not a terrible winger, but is production there? This year, yeah. But yeah, the hat trick came after Jesus Ferreira got called up, so good for them. I'm excited for Jesus and Paul to be on the team. But I just know Greg's not going to play Jesus Ferreira in his position, which is more like an attacking midfielder, like Steve was saying. So Out of all the nonsense and hypocritical stuff and conflicting things Greg Berhalter, the U.S. men's national team coach, says in interviews and whatnot, we just know that he loves his MLS players like these two. And they've been working really well together in Dallas so far this year. So if they're going off of this good form, I can just feel it already that they might be starting the game at Azteca in Mexico. I can just feel it. I can just feel it coming and the anger boiling up in my body. When we should be playing our strongest team, our best team, he might be playing the duo that's in form, which, again, like I said, he's very hypocritical and conflicting when he talks about why he chooses players and setups and whatever else. So who knows, man? Who knows? I keep saying that, but honestly, who knows?
Right. And I know you care a lot more about Jordan Pefok. I think you think he should probably be that guy that's leading the team. In all competitions this season, he has 22 goals, and I think he's, 5 assists? Is that right?
That's right.
So, yeah, you want to say it for the people in the back?
Yeah, let me say that again. Jordan Pefok has 22 goals and 5 assists. Yeah.
Yeah, so he could actually score goals. I think that's pretty good. Let's also talk about how he's got some confidence running goal. He's played in the Champions League. I'm not talking about CONCACAF Champions League. This is the real big boys tournament, UEFA Champions League with young boys. So this guy, I think, even scored in the
Against
early
Man U.
rounds. Yeah, that's insane that this kid is doing it in Europe. So his exclusion from the team is pretty hard to comprehend. It's sort of weird to, again, we talk about it. It's hard to pick Greg's brain, what he's thinking. But the fact that he produces so consistently abroad on a high level, it is pretty shocking to not have him in this camp, especially when things are on the line.
Well,
you would expect a guy like his caliber to be making the team.
Yeah, so he is in this camp. The
issue is making the starting lineup.
Right. He's he wasn't in the past couple camps. So therefore he's not starting and getting playing time.
Correct.
It's just odd, right? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully maybe if we can get the win in Mexico, maybe then we'll see more out of him getting comfortable with the U.S. team. I don't know what Greg's thinking, but I think we would agree that he's proven that he deserves to be in that starting 11, being that main striker. But if it's not Pefok, then you talked a little bit about him a minute ago. Who would be the next best option?
I mean, it is Pefok. That is the answer.
Right.
If this were anybody else, like imagine if Christian Pulisic had 22 goals and 5 assists.
Right.
Obviously, that might be a little unrealistic that he's playing in the Premier League and in the Champions League. The Swiss League is at a lower level than all that. But this guy is still producing. Like, if this were anybody else, if this were an MLS player, I mean, he'd be getting scouts from all over the world, trying to get bids. So it's like, I just don't know how he hasn't earned this, 1, call-ups, but 2, starting. Like just like Zach Steffen is the number 1 goalkeeper, Jordan Pefok is the default number 1 striker.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't care about people talk about style of play, all this. No, he still should be in the camp. Maybe
Right.
Game to game it changes, especially in qualifying. He might not start. That's fine. Minutes are already limited, stuff like that. I don't get it. But like you were alluding to, the next best striker, as far as stat line goes, is not Pepe. No, it's not Ferreira even, who just had a hat trick. So even if you take the hat trick away, which I'm not going to, but even if you keep the hat trick, it's not even Weah. Weah's not even really producing. It's Josh Sargent. Hello. He has 4 goals on the year, 3 assists, and an awful, and I mean bad Norwich City side.
Yeah. Doomed to go down.
Doomed. I mean, it's sort of like that Werder Bremen team he was on. Like, they were just fighting relegation too, and he just couldn't get things going there. Because when you're at the bottom, you're not getting many chances.
Right. The support you need to score.
Right.
Yeah.
And so with that, like, he has 4 goals. He has 3 assists. It's more productive than any of the other strikers that we would call up or have in our talent pool. And like I said, I don't think he's our best striker or our best option at winger. But Greg likes players being able to play multiple positions, right? At least that's what he said when he called in James Sands, who hasn't played at all for Rangers. Oh, he can play multiple positions. Okay, cool. Well, if you want to say that, and this is what I was saying earlier about the hypocritical, conflicting things that he says, Josh Sargent plays on the wing for Norwich or in a 2-striker system, like just depending. And, has sort of produced to an extent at the highest level. The Premier League is by far the best league in the world. He has the energy, probably the most energy on the team other than Anthony. And he can play multiple positions. He can play on the wing. He can play as a second striker. He can play as a striker. How is he not in the team? So that's where I don't understand why is Pepe getting the call and Josh isn't? Why would Jesus get the call over Josh? There's a lot of things I really don't understand, and I'm gonna stop venting because I wanted to say a lot of this last week, but we sort of moved on. I'm gonna stop venting, but from John Brooks, situation, which shouldn't be a situation at all, in my opinion, to calling up players like Roldan, who's not a bad player, but shouldn't really be in the team because it's excluding other players that should be in the team. And then to not sticking with a consistent roster every camp. I just don't get it. And I know it's more of a survive and advance type deal and we just got to get to the World Cup and then it'll happen. But what happens when these guys haven't played together and they don't have that chemistry, right? I don't know. Those are just my thoughts. I don't know how you feel about it. I just it's just a headache when I feel like it doesn't have to be. No, I don't really see any of the countries, doing this. They just always call their best players into camp. And that's really just it. People know that the call up means something. It's not just a fun little token you throw out. It actually means something to wear the crest. And I'm saying it doesn't mean something to the players, but for the coaches, it just doesn't seem like it matters. It doesn't seem like they're bringing the best American talent forward. And that's what I think really, really gets at me.
I'm thinking about the hiring of Greg Berhalter. Let's track back to 2018. The U.S. fails to qualify for the World Cup in Russia. The U.S. takes over a year to hire a head coach, and this head coach now being Greg Berhalter. I think a lot of people had this vision of, yes, this young U.S. team, a team that's been built from the bottom up. We're not seeing anyone from that past World Cup squad like in a lot of the earlier friendlies and such, Nations League, whatever, blah, blah, blah. People are getting ahead of themselves and saying this U.S. team is going to play so well in the World Cup when I think everything has been building up to this round of World Cup qualifying. It doesn't matter what happens in the World Cup. What matters is if they qualify for the World Cup. So you can say whatever you want about the U.S. men's team and what might happen in Qatar, but Greg Berhalter's job is on the line here. Everything he's said, every player he's selected, everything has all been building up to this last window. And if he doesn't produce, then all of it will have been a waste, and it will all be on his shoulders. It doesn't fall on these players, I don't think. I think it falls on him for the team that he's chosen to build, the players he's excluded. You used to bring in the Fabian Johnsons, the dual citizens that Jurgen Klinsmann loved to involve in the team. And you're not seeing as many of those players. You have some, but you don't have as many. And so it's been a different team. And this all rides on him if they fail to get enough points in these next 3 games. So that's what all eyes are going to be on them. I mean, the games start Thursday, March 24th. So at 10 p.m. Eastern. So it's in Mexico. They're playing at the Azteca. The next one happens March 27th. So that's a Saturday. They're playing in Orlando in the Mickey Mouse House, as it's friendly called, against Panama. And the last game, which we hope things are all wrapped up by then. We don't even really want to talk about.
They should have been wrapped up last games.
But then they finish up in Costa Rica. So this might be like Trinidad and Tobago, where they have to play away and a team that might have the chance to beat you. So that one's on Wednesday, March 30th. So I'm hoping that we can just get the job done in Azteca, that we can get the points we need, and that we can get this qualifying done, and that we can have the boys come back, finish up their domestic leagues this year, and then as the fall and the winter approaches that, then we can really rear up for the World Cup, get our roster solidified, and we can build some confidence. But what are your predictions going into these last games? Do we feel good? Do we think we can get the job done?
Yeah, I think we can. Are we in second right now? Canada's first. Are we second?
I think we should be second.
I think we're second. Either we're second or third. But below, let's say we're second, I should know this, and then Mexico's third. Right below that is Panama. So our second game, that's in Orlando, we play Panama. They're going to be fighting for everything. And then our last game, Costa Rica, they're in fifth below Panama. Yes. So it's like these games matter to these teams. And if the USA thinks they're going to play comfortably in any of these three matches, we're sorely mistaken. And I can see it now, and I don't want negative things to happen. But I will be watching every game. I will be screaming at the television. I will be biting my nails. I don't know. You name it, I'll probably be doing. But man, God, I hope we get a tie at Azteca. I think that's my prediction. Yeah, maybe like a 2-2 draw, 1-1 draw, something like that.
The point spread is Canada has 25 points right now, so they're in first. Us and Mexico are actually tied. We both have 21 points, but we have the goal differential right now by 3 goals. But whoever wins that game has a huge point swing, so that's why it's so important to get a win in Mexico, because that gives us such an advantage, because Panama's in fourth with 17 points. Again, another big point swing. If we win that game, if we draw in Mexico, I think that gets the job done. We're safe. So there's still so much in the air.
There's so much.
It's kind of crazy. I'm hoping we can put on a show in Mexico. Not only would that get the job done, but it feels good to go to Mexico and win in Azteca. It's not something that's easy to do, but it does take a lot. And so we're fingers crossed. I'll be with you. I'll be watching online. So it's crazy. But
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. That's just the life of our sports fandom. It ain't always easy. It ain't always pretty. But it is what it is, isn't it? But to you guys, that about wraps things up here today on The Bad Fan. Thank you again for tuning in today. If you liked it, go ahead and drop a like for us. It's free, only takes a second. Along with, if you haven't subscribed already, we'd be really, really appreciative if you go ahead and do that. Our goal, we do have some goals for the channel, not only to deliver you guys informative news and give some Bad Fan opinions, but we do want to have to try and grow this channel. So we're trying to get to 100 subs by the summer. So if you want to help us get there, don't be afraid to share it with a friend. Find us on Instagram, share some posts there. We have some great reels being released. We would greatly appreciate it. And lastly, get involved by commenting down below or interacting in the comment section on Instagram, YouTube. Links are in the description. But thank you again for joining us. All of us here at the Bad Fan Podcast hope you have a great day. And I've been Cole Carter. He's been Brandon Pasnick. And we hope you have a great one.